No matter which way the ruling goes, it's going to be historic. So let's take a closer look at the possibilities with ABC7's legal analyst, Dean Johnson. Dean, thanks for joining us. A lot of legal observers seem to think that the judge will rule in favor of the plaintiffs and against Prop 8. Why?
Well, I think anybody who saw the trial would believe that, because this was truly a lopsided trial. The evidence, the quality of the witnesses, the quality of the arguments all favored the plaintiffs. And I think that if you watch that trial, you get a sense of where Judge Walker is going. He was constantly asking the defendants, the supporters of Prop 8, why? Why should I deny same-sex couples the fundamental right to marry? And they couldn't answer that question.
This often baffles, I think, me and a lot of other people. Where do states' rights come into a question like this? You always hear that term come up.
Well, a lot of people have said that this is something that should be left to the states. There's a certain play in the joints in the Constitution that allows states to experiment with various forms and styles of government, and so some courts early on had said this is something that should be left to the states. Now the state has decided, California decided, and it's been taken into an exclusively federal forum, and the only question now is what is the scope of the federal Constitution, the United States Constitution, and does it recognize a fundamental right of same-sex marriage?
All right, so let's talk about this. If it does come down against Prop 8, of course there will be appeals, but could weddings resume in the meantime for gay couples?
Probably not. The supporters of Prop 8 have already asked for a stay of the judge's decision. So if the judge says Prop 8 is unconstitutional, in all likelihood, I think Judge Walker will put that on hold, issue what we call a stay, and say that the status quo remains until there's a final resolution by the Supreme Court. He doesn't want to create another addition to that crazy quilt of people getting married, then getting unmarried, and some people being able to marry and some people not being able to marry.
All right, crystal ball time. Ninth Circuit has obviously this reputation for being very liberal. The Roberts Supreme Court has a reputation for being the opposite. So how could this go as it winds its way through the system?
I think if Prop 8 is found unconstitutional, I think the Ninth Circuit will uphold that decision. There have been a couple of administrative decisions by that court, by the most conservative and the most liberal justice, questioning the federal equivalent of Prop 8, the Defense of Marriage Act. Where it goes in the Supreme Court is anybody's guess. Normally you would say conservative court, Anthony Kennedy having the swing vote, he might go with the pro-Prop 8 side. But remember, we have the former Solicitor General Ted Olson arguing this. Anthony Kennedy was a guest at Ted Olson's wedding. And an interesting quirk. The case that both sides rely on, Lawrence versus Texas, which changed the entire way that the Supreme Court looks at same-sex relations, was written by Anthony Kennedy, and it struck down a Texas statute as discriminatory against gays and lesbians.
All right. Dean Johnson, our legal analyst, thank you very much. We will see you later on in this newscast for more questions about this, this very much anticipated ruling.
All right. Thanks, Dean.